I had really very little experience in that, but I saw it as a really cool product. So they did the presentation, and after that, I'm like, okay, I as soon as I get home, I am switching over to Teams. I cannot believe it's going to do all that, and so I was my jaw dropped, and so I think how my world changed was I felt like that was the ultimate organizational tool we have been missing. I feel like it's the umbrella to every other program that we can be using in our suite of Office products. So I was very excited for my clients, and I was really kind of advocating it. And this is pre-COVID. I was telling some of my clients, "You need to use this." They're like, "Oh, well, I don't know, not quite yet, Connie. It sounds a little complicated for us, But I did have some clients that did switch over, and they were very happy come COVID that they had switched. But I feel like how my world changed is I found a place for everything and a program that brought it all together. And it became like a solution for cluttered inboxes and cluttered desks, and like I've been up to that point, been coaching with a lot of clients on, even things like Outlook, and how I saw how people were stressed with so much stuff in their inboxes, and where do I put it, and how do I organize it, and this became a solution for that. So it really was, to me, an easier way to work, an easier way to work together with others, whether they're inside your organization or outside. So I just fell in love with the product.
I love the term that you used, umbrella, because when I think of Microsoft, that's also what I think. Like, they've created this ecosystem that is pretty seamless and integrate, I guess, make some of the other apps we might have been using sort of obsolete. Like you mentioned, like Phil Slack and Zoom and some of those things is all sort of integrated. And we're a Microsoft Office as well shop also. Like we run Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, all that, and we're still trying to figure out, well, what do I save on SharePoint versus OneDrive, and like what are the rules around that?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, given the rate of speed, right, that tech changes, what prompted you for this career path to become, number one, be in the Microsoft suite training for sure, but even to be a teacher, like in the consulting space? What brought you there?
I mean, how far back do you want me to go? Because yeah, I mean, I was going to be actually, for as far as my education, post-secondary education, I was on the path to become an accountant. That's what I left university or schooling with, and then I was supposed to finish up my last year working somewhere in an accounting type of job. And back in those days, it was just very hard to find an accounting job. I had a job; they hired me to do accounts payable, but 3 months in, all I was doing was filing. And every time I asked, when do I get to start doing accounting? They're like, "Oh yeah, soon." And I'm like, I can't do any more filing. I'm just so bored of this. So a job came my way that was computer oriented. It was a database coordinator, and I took that. And during the course of that job, they sent me to lots of computer training courses. And so 2 years after that project was over, the computer training school hired me because they were looking for somebody. And so it just evolved. It just became the direction. And one day, and so I was managing this computer training school, and one day one of the instructors wasn't able to make it to the class the next day. So the boss asked me if I would go into the classroom. I'm like, I've never taught before. I was just so nervous. So I stayed up all night preparing and stuff. And I got in that classroom, and that was like, I was so nervous, but I'm just like, this is where I'm meant to be, because it was just so wonderful to be able to share and also to find out what the student, because I was the person that was always checking in with the instructor. So how was it? And they'd be like, "Oh, good." And I'm like, "Okay." And nothing else to tell me. So when I got in that classroom, I realized there's a lot going on. There's a lot that these people, want to know about. And so I just became in love with the idea of helping people and finding out kind of where they needed more help. So it helped me develop better courses. And eventually I bought out the company, and yeah, that's what I just continue down that journey.
I think that journey is so common in some ways, and which is why when young professionals are entering the workforce, and I'm sure that both of you, it's the same, and they're like, what advice do you have for me? It's like, just don't say no, just try and just try different things. And what you think you're going to end up doing or where you're going to end up isn't often the case. And funnily enough, Connie, I did the first 2 years of my undergrad in accounting, thinking I was going to become an accountant. And my brother and I were on the same track, and now he's an accountant, and I'm, in marketing. And I, like you, I was like, I love math and I love accounting and, all that stuff, but I don't know that that's where I can, be 24/7 for 40 years of my career or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's really common that we just end up, sometimes finding our joy by happenstance, by just saying yes to certain opportunities. And that's one of the things I try and impart to some of, people entering the workforce is, not so much rigidity over what you think you should be doing or where you should be going, because sometimes, what's that that expression, like, we make plans, the universe laughs. You end up you end up somewhere else.
I think you got to have a bit of faith and jump into things and see what happens and have that level of openness. I kind of have a question off the cuff, because you mentioned something interesting about, like, getting feedback from people you're training and instructors and things like that. So my question is, like, what do you think is, like, the key to an organization or a person to succeed in getting trained on a platform or a tool like this? I'm sure you see it, and there must be one or two or three elements you can share so that folks out there could be like, you know what, I have to change my mindset, or I have to look at this a different way. So what do you think, Connie?
Well, yeah, one of the things you said right there is part of it, mindset. I mean, we have been working on computers forever, most of us. And so I even look at a product like, well, I was teaching Outlook for 11 years straight. And it was a particular class I was teaching for another company. And when I'd have people walk into the classroom, they're like, what are you going to teach me about Outlook? I use it all the time. And then I blew them away in the first 20 minutes. And it's just like, you have to have an open mind. I'm not going to teach you anything if you think you know everything. So if you want to say, you know what, let's see what you're going to teach me, just be a tiny bit open, and then let me talk to you about it. So I think having an open mind, be willing to learn, knowing that you don't know it all. None of us do. None of us ever will. That's impossible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just be open and be a little bit vulnerable to make a mistake. Who cares? I tell my clients that all the time. Quit stressing about whether you do it right or wrong. Just do it, and just try stuff. So be open to trying stuff, and but the other in the same line of that, you do want to have some kind of method. So if you work with a group of people, you should be getting together with that group of people, especially with something like Microsoft Teams, and you should have a method or a plan. Well, why are we learning this? Because that's what I'm hearing from some of my clients is that, well, everyone hates Teams, or we're not getting buy-in, Connie, or they don't want to use it. And I'm like, well, how did you introduce it to them? Did you just slap it in front of them and just say, okay, have fun? Or did you actually, give them some kind of training first off, and not more than 4 minutes? And did you tell them why and how it's going to be better? So, be open, experiment, but also, talk to others, find out why you're doing something, how is it going to help, and also ask questions. I feel like, and I know I've been, during the pandemic, I took a bunch of training too for some stuff I was learning about starting my own remote training school, which is online and stuff. And I remember being in those sessions and being afraid to put up my hand. And then I thought, that is a problem. That's what my students too. They're afraid to put up their hand because they're afraid to say something because they don't want to look dumb. And so it's like, as soon as you're thinking it, probably 5 other people are thinking it at least, right? So it's just sort of like, just have to just get out of that comfort zone. So I don't know if that was what you're looking for there, Phil, but that's kind of what I think.
I think to your last point there, I feel like the kind of social aspect of it maybe might, push people away from asking questions, but it's such a important contribution to the group to, just share your thought. And I think I like what you said about having a plan, a method. One follow-up question I had was like, okay, you've trained the team. how do you make sure it sticks? Because we've always, adopted some form of technology, and then, there's traction in the beginning, and then slowly but surely it starts to fizzle out, or people's attention shift to another platform they're, implementing. So how do you make sure that it sticks? Do you have to, have like follow-up meetings, follow-up training, refreshers? Like what's the approach there, Connie?
Yeah, well, I think follow-ups is definitely part of it, but it's sort of like, with anything that you do, why would you ever stop? I mean, think about like if I'm trying to lose weight, for sure I'm going to eat less or be on that diet or whatever for a certain period of time, but I can't start eating cake in the whole fridge the day after my diet's done and I lost the 10 pounds. I got to keep going. So, I mean, it's just like anything. You're learning technology. You've done some things to make it better. You're not going to stop doing that because Connie's not there anymore. You have to keep it up. So follow-ups, I mean, if I have to be the one that follows up because I'm going to sort of not crack the whip, but I'm going to make you more accountable. People are, I don't want to say they're scared of when I come, but they're like, oh, I had to clean my desk or I had to clean my inbox. I'm like, don't do anything. I mean, the more you do before I come, the less I can help you because I want to see what real world looks like to you because then I can help you with real world. So to keep it going, I mean, if you have the method, if you have the plan, then you're sticking to that and this is the long game. This is not, okay, we got Teams, this is how we're going to implement it and then we're done. It's like, no, you got to keep going. And you probably should also, I have a little chart where I say if you're using Teams and using the products that Teams gives you access to, then you should stop using these or at least lessen these. So that would be the other sort of measuring stick. Is your inbox full again? Is your, did you start texting people again? Like, are you starting to kind of like, did I cheat on the chocolate? Like, I mean, like what are you doing that sort of your indicator that, oh, we're falling off, right? So, and so the regular follow-ups, meetings, keeping each other accountable, like have a committee, have a, some police, the Teams police or something, have some method of keeping it going. So yeah, you're right on track there, Phil. I agree. It's sort of like change happens, but then falls off if you don't really pay attention. So.
Sort of change management 101, right? Particularly when it comes to software platforms, adoption and engagement is key for that stickiness long term. And exactly, like if you go in and do one training session and then everybody just goes back, understandably, human natures go back to what you're comfortable with, and creating new habits is hard. It takes at least, daily practice for at least a few weeks to change that practice. So I think that's, one of the biggest obstacles to onboarding onto platforms like this is inertia. Like, why do I have to change? What's the value for me? And so, and so like, I was thinking about what you said earlier around how, people are like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe we're too small. And I hear that often among people like, well, we're not big enough to bring in Microsoft, so we're just working on, Google or something like that. And so what would you say to a company who is saying that? Like, what's the value? What are the top benefits of a company bringing on like the Microsoft system and their tools?
I think big enough is one person. Like literally, I don't know how any one person wouldn't want to gain extra time and organization. Like, I mean, as one person, the smaller you are, the more you need it. I mean, the smaller that you are, the more you need that organization, the more you need to have everything together and in one spot. And so that, if you do have to subcontract out people, you're more organized and faster and more, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but you can just respond faster, right? The bigger you are, it's actually a little bit more difficult because you have to gather all the people and get them on board. So the bigger you are, it's like the big ship versus the small boat, right? The big ship is going to turn more slowly, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of people to kind of get that turn. Whereas a small boat can turn very quickly, but you have to steer in the right direction. And so if you don't think, that you're big enough to use that product, then what game are you kind of playing with your business? Like, I mean, don't you want your business to succeed? So, you know, every product has its merit for sure. Google has a lot of merit. So if you are, I mean, I think you have to look at the results you're gaining from that product. If that product is keeping you really well organized and you feel like you're on top of everything and you can collaborate and you know where everything is and you don't feel like, you know, that you're losing a lot, then fine, stick with it. But where are the holes? That's what you're looking to answer that question, to decide, should I switch to a tool? Because switching does come with some effort, right? So that does take some time. So
I
yeah.
love your whole, like, if you're one person, that's big enough, because who doesn't need, and you know, more productivity, more time, and the smaller you are, the more you need to lean on technology to help. The smaller your firm, you know, the more you need to lean on technology to be able to free up time for you to grow your business, right? Which sounds like a tagline, and it probably is a tagline somewhere, but so I love that you said that, because so many solopreneurs or like small businesses say, that's not for me. That's an enterprise solution. That's not for me. So I love that perspective. I don't often hear that perspective.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add too is the importance of adopting these technologies early, because it's so much harder to do later. So if you make it part of your culture, you make it part of your onboarding with your new staff, then you know you're hitting the ground running when your business starts to scale. Whereas if you wait and do it later, it's so much more difficult, because everyone has, you know, things on their to-do lists, and getting trained on, you know, no one likes to always go backwards and redo things. So I think it's also like one of the benefits, I would say, is like scalability, and just like, but you need to have vision in order to accomplish that. So I think that those are pretty important too.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. So I'm sure you have a lot of organizations who, you know, you must have seen those who have succeeded, those who haven't succeeded. And what would you say are like the biggest mistakes companies are doing for them not to succeed in adopting Teams or any other Microsoft products?
Well, I think it's a lot of times we're scared of the unknown, right? So so sometimes it's reluctancy to make the change first off, right? So okay, we're not ready. I mean, recently I heard from one of my clients, oh, we're not ready for that yet. We saw what you could do, because they attended one of my overviews of what it's possible, and they're like, hey, we're not ready for that. And I'm like, and it was like, how can you not be ready? But that's okay. Because the thing is, you can go at any speed you want. You can take it and take the next year to implement it, or you can take it and take the next month to implement it. It just depends on what speed you're comfortable with and what manpower you have. So the other thing is kind of the stickiness I think we talked about earlier. Like, I mean, it's really, this is a project. If you think I'm going to come in and train you one day and the next day you guys are fully up on Teams and your world has changed, you're wrong. I mean, I guess partially that's going to happen. But you know, the one day of training is not the answer. You have to have some kind of commitment to this being a project. This is not learning Excel or learning, you know, how to center stuff in Word. This is a plan. This is a strategy we're putting together in terms of how it should work. So there's a lot that Microsoft has to offer, and if you don't learn it, you're going to be behind everybody else. Like, I think you guys mentioned that too. Like, there's so much out there, and plus you're going to be spending extra money. So the other thing I think is people are not educating themselves with what is part of that product. So, and what I mean by that is that people are buying Asana, they're buying, or they're paying for Asana, they're paying for Calendly, they're paying for these extra products when you know that's in Microsoft. I mean, if you have Microsoft 365, you're paying a subscription rate already. You have a task planner in there. You have a calendar system in there. And by the way, you don't need Zoom either, really, if you think about it, because you have a remote meeting system in there. So you have 3 products you can get rid of right away. And you could probably get rid of Adobe, but I might be a little bit, yeah, I don't know all the things that Adobe is doing for you, but even like I helped a client with, she needed signatures from her clients. So how does she get a signature? And we found a solution for it within Teams, and that's not by using a third-party app. We were just creative about how we did it. So you just need to be open to that creativity. So I'm not scared of that. Yeah. So one more thing, sorry, I know this is a long answer for you, but when people take on new programs or new processes, a lot of times that means they need to be engaging in that and giving up something else. So I kind of look at it as, what old habit are we replacing? So for instance, if you really want to truly work with the Teams product within your own business, let's start there first, or even within a project within your own business, let's say, then that means you need to never send an email to a business colleague again, because Teams does it for you. So if you're emailing, that's an old habit you have, you're comfortable with that, you know how to do that, you know, feel like you can do that any time of the day or night, but you're kind of going backwards again. So it's sort of like giving up those old habits and really immersing in the products is kind of part of the success there.
I think what I've glommed onto what you said, one of the things you said was, you know, you're going to fall behind others. So do you feel that, you know, bringing on a platform like Microsoft can actually give you to some degree competitive edge because, you know, you're automating, or you have that umbrella system in place, which does give you more time, and time, you know, leads to money, of course. Would you go so far as to say that, in terms of, I'm just poking a bit at your, like, you're going to fall behind? Do you mean just from a tech perspective, or do you mean even from a business perspective?
I think both. I mean, I don't have any data to support that. I can't give you any stats and stuff, but I'm sure there are stats out there. But I think of it as, you have a product that can bring all of your people together, and whether they're inside your business or even some contractors outside your business, you can bring them together. You can easily collaborate, you can meet, you can have all your information there. There's no emailing back and forth, no phone calls back and forth as much. So you tell me, if you could save, you know, an hour a day, an hour a week, working with that group of people, is that going to help your business? Is that going to make you better than the business beside you? Probably. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think one way to look at it as well is, how determined are you to contribute to your customer's experience? And collaboration has a big part of that. And so if you're looking at your organization versus another, and customer experience is one of those sort of metrics that you use to determine whether or not you're competitive on the market, I think absolutely, you know, the Teams team solution and other Microsoft products will help you contribute to a better experience for your customer, because collaboration is so important, you know. So it could be a channel or a team that's created to support a customer, or a project, for example, that you're focused on a customer. Another company not having a dedicated space to discuss about a high priority project is probably not going to treat it as well as your organization, who has a dedicated space to chat in. You can have 1,000 messages about this project. If you didn't have that space to communicate, you probably won't get it done in the same amount of time. And so I think it could definitely make you more competitive. Maybe it's hard to you know, measure, but I think there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
One of the questions I had, so going back to what I was saying earlier about how there's some apps, you mentioned like you might be able to do signatures through, you know, the Microsoft suite. Calendly, you know, I use Calendly all the time. I use a free version, so I don't pay for it. But Asana too. So are you referring to apps that connect to Microsoft? So I know Microsoft Project is there. I didn't know there was an alternative to Calendly in Microsoft solutions, and signatures as well. Can you talk to us a bit more about that?
Okay. Well, yeah. So first off, if you have the Microsoft 365 for Business, that's the one I'll recognize first. Then you have over 17 applications that are included in that application, and some of them work with web on the web alone, as in the web interface. Some of them work within Teams, and some of them work on the desktop and a combination thereof. I've done a chart that actually kind of shows which apps work wherever, but as far as the calendar one, Bookings, Microsoft Bookings is part of Microsoft 365, and it will fully integrate with your Outlook calendar to see when you're busy. You can decide when you want to have bookings, you can have buffer time, and you can have it also give you a series of things you book for. So you can say, okay, I have a free consult that's 20 minutes. You can book in for that. This is my 1 hour coaching call. You book in for 1 hour. This is my 45-minute overview. You can book in for that. But each of these things, I can also have buffer time of 50 minutes, 20 minutes, and I can say I want to be. You can't book 24 hours or more than less than 24 hours in advance. So there's all kinds of little things that calendar programs give you that allow you to have this booking calendar. Yeah, people just don't even know it's there. So the other thing I was going to say about the bookings is it initially, I didn't start using it myself either, because initially it didn't have the Teams or the Zoom interface that was really easy to use and stuff. So or even added, but now they do. So now you can say that 20-minute consult is a Teams meeting, and so then it sends the Teams invite right with it. So they do have everything that you could want there with bookings. The signature one, that one is being creative. There isn't. I'm not going to suggest Microsoft inside its application has a signature program. I was just being creative with how to go about that. And I was actually using OneNote to help with that creativity. So OneNote is just one of those applications that Microsoft has included that people kind of look over sometimes thinking, oh, that's just my notes. That OneNote does them so much. You just have to be very creative on how you look at things. So
good stuff. And then you talked about Asana. Are we talking about Microsoft Project?
Nope, Microsoft Planner. So part of 365 is Microsoft Planner and Microsoft To Do. So Microsoft Planner is the tool that lets you kind of project manage within the within that application, but you could also have that application within your SharePoint site or within your Teams channel, and you can have as many planners as you want. And then Planner also integrates with To Do, which and so they all can they all work with Outlook as well. So there's a way to kind of get it all the way. So you think about all those people are flagging their emails, they're putting tasks in Outlook. There's a way to bring all that stuff and the stuff that you're going to have from Teams and bring it all together so that it's all in one spot. And that's what Microsoft does for you with their internal applications. That you already have. People already have. They don't even know they have it.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's why I wanted to highlight that. One more thing that I know that I wish Microsoft had was a way to sync the Microsoft Exchange contacts in Teams. Is that something that you've heard of before, where like everyone that I've been emailing, I can also sort of call, or do you have to save contacts in Teams in order to access those contacts?
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there, Phil. That one I haven't really investigated heavily, so I just from where I sit, I haven't seen a really great solution for that yet. I'm not going to suggest there isn't one, because maybe I just don't know, but that if there isn't one now, I'm sure that that's going to come, because Microsoft's changing things all the time. I mean, as soon as I say something's not possible, they're like, Connie, you said it wasn't possible and I can do this now. I'm like, sorry, it's Microsoft. They keep doing stuff. So yeah, I would think that that's gonna come eventually. But I know everyone's used to just typing in the first three letters, PHI. Why is Philip's name not coming up yet? Keep typing. So I think that's kind of part of what you're talking about. But yeah, it's a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know for sure on that one.
I'm sure they're going to come out with it, because it's part of, it must be part of their roadmap to sync contacts with Teams. Okay, great. Well, that was super awesome. Yeah, I think so. You have You have a book. I'd love to, learn more about it. Yeah, can you tell us what it's called, where people can find it, and tell us a bit more about what's inside?
Your book, yeah.
Here, this is the book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a real book. So this book, actually, it's called Work Smarter with Microsoft OneNote. I was actually, someone reached out to me, a publisher, Pact Publishing, reached out to me on LinkedIn, and they asked me if I wanted to do this book. And I'm like, yes, I love OneNote. How did you know that? I don't know if they knew or not, but so part of the process was, of course, putting together an outline and stuff. And so once they liked that, they approved me to do it. So it was 9 months in the making, because I'm doing that on the weekends and in the evenings. And I've written manuals before, but nothing compares to writing a book. And working with a publisher was just a godsend, because that was the way to, in the beginning, it was like it took me forever to finish a chapter, because I'm like, I don't know, this sounds really crappy to me. So I kept working on it. But then after a while, I kind of got they taught me a lot, but I also learned that, that's the best I think I can do right now. I'm going to send it to the publisher. They're going to give me their feedback, and then I'm going to fix it. So, back and forth, back and forth. So, yeah, it was, it's all about everything Microsoft OneNote can do, really, because like I say, people are just using it for notes, or they're just touching the surface of it. So the signature example may not be in there, because that's one I did recently with a client, because whenever a client gives me a problem, or they're like, well, how can I do this within? And I'm always trying to solve it with the products they already have. So, but yeah, there's probably similar scenarios in the book about like that. So the book's all about how to use it, and then I give all kinds of examples in the book. I talk about best practices. I give examples of my OneNote notebooks. So I try and make it interesting,
I'm a guilty party. I use OneNote. I've been using it for years, and it's like I do use it to take notes, and I'm like it when you held that book up and that was just for OneNote, I was like, what am I not doing? Like, how? Like, there's so much in there. I'm like, I'm not doing that much. So I'm gonna be on it. Is it on Amazon? Can I go find it?
Sorry, yeah, it's on. You can get it on Amazon, or any online seller of books, Chapters, Indigo.
Right, okay.
They all have it. Yeah. So if you get it on Amazon, then just please do a book review afterwards, because the book reviews, I need more of those. But yeah, you can definitely get it there. So, and you can order the digital version, or you can get the paperback version as well. So
right.
either one.
That was like, how much do I not know when I saw that much paper?
I know. Well, you know what, I'm going to
admit.
Yeah, well, and I've been using it for years too, but some of the stuff, when I had to kind of go, dig deeper, make a full, like, they want 12 pages for everything. I'm 12. Well, how am I going to have 12 pages for this one topic? I'm just like, what? But it wasn't hard. I was going over to 18 pages, and they're like, Connie, you can't go to over so much. I'm like, okay, bring it back. But it's amazing how much stuff that there is to say about it. So I know I improved my notebooks as I was writing it, because I'm like, Connie, you need to be doing that. So I'm like, okay, I got to fix up my notebooks and do a few things. So I did a few things that I was talking about in the book as I was writing the book. So it's kind of funny. We can all learn. We can still improve. I can still improve my notebooks, but yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So anybody wanting to learn more about OneNote, I mean, that's probably one of your best ways is looking at that kind of guide. So.
Perfect.
Seeing something like that just hammers home what Phil said earlier, was that, we are probably paying for subscriptions that we don't even need, because we don't recognize some of that very niche functionality we're looking for, that we're finding elsewhere, is actually already in the system we're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also want to, and this maybe goes back to one thing you said earlier, Phil, about what people aren't doing, or is that we're not being creative enough. I mean, they see it as this thing, right? And it's just like, no, you need to go beyond. So what an example I'll give you there, if I have time, Phil, do I have a couple of minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
is one of my clients was saying, okay, Connie, we've got, you know, Word and Excel and Teams, and I can see how we can all collaborate and we can all kind of make our notes in there together as a group. But how do we use a PDF? Like, how do we get that PDF in there so then we can make notes on that and point to things? And, you know, how does that become? Do we have to use Adobe for that? And I'm like, well, you can pay for that, or you can just throw your PDF in your OneNote and then use OneNote to draw all over it. Like, think, you know, OneNote is the capturing system that lets you do so much with what you capture. So there isn't anything you can't sort of, I shouldn't say it's anything, there's so much you can do within OneNote, and there's so much you can capture there. So what they did is they put that, I think it was a drawing of the space they were expanding to. They put that drawing into their OneNote notebook, and then each person would, you know, circle things or make notes beside it as to what their thoughts were. And yeah, it's like OneNote is like having that piece of paper, but it's digital. It truly is. It's as if you handed a piece of paper and people drew on it and stuff. So PDFs can go in there perfectly fine.
That's great. Well, Connie, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge in these collaboration tools, especially you know, Teams, OneNote, SharePoint. So we'll definitely be linking your YouTube page in the show notes, the link to your book so people can, you know, buy it and can continue to learn more. The link to your website, so Mission Computers website. So if ever they want to reach out to you and, you know, book a training or something like that. But yeah, I wanted to give you an opportunity just to, you know, I guess speak to our audience to, you know, see how they can get in touch with you, if ever that's not enough.
Yes, yeah, no, I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Teresa and Phil, for having me on the show, and thank you for all those that are listening or watching. I appreciate the time that you devoted to this. And the biggest message for you is just try stuff. Don't be afraid. Put up your hand. Reach out. Ask people. You know, the best way that I learned, especially when I was in that job many years ago, before I even went down this path, is I was back in the days of still phoning people. There wasn't as much email back then. I had my people that I would phone. So I had 3 people that I could phone and ask questions of, because people in the office were saying, how do you do this, Connie? I'm like, hang on, I'll find out. And then I go phone somebody. How do you do that? So have your network of people that you're not scared to talk to. And I can be in that network. I call myself your computer friend, Connie, because that's what everybody ends up calling me, because I am your computer friend, Connie. And you can reach out, send me an email. You can, you know, book an appointment with me, and I truly will just listen to you and see how I can help.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for taking the time to join us on the New Level podcast. And we hope to have you back again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Connie.
Thanks, Connie.
Bye. Bye.